And we're going to talk about the disempowerment of Filipinos in San Francisco in a sec, my column in Inquirer.net. But first, I want to talk about my show coming up, Emil Amok 69. It is on Wednesday night, the 19th. I know I keep saying that, but now we're close to the date. And if you're saying, yeah, I'd like to see Emil, 7:30 p.m. in the Mission at the SF Marsh in the Mission. Well, yeah, because it's like going home. It's like, you play Parcheesi or backgammon. The point is to go home. I'm going home after being on the road with the show. I was in Canada, Fresno. That's kind of the road, Fresno. I'm going to do the show in San Francisco one night only. And I'm talking about me, my life now, 2025, the year of Trump 2.0. And there are consequences. There are we're all living in this world, right? And how are you dealing with it? How am I dealing with it? I'll tell you how I'm dealing with it. And I know it seems like maybe we're going to get something tomorrow, right? We're going to get this vote on the Epstein files. And Donald Trump is doing what he can to minimize the dripping. He's saying, "Oh, go ahead, vote for it, you Republicans." He's going to say, "Hey, I was for full transparency." What's he going to say? I'm not for full transparency? Well, he's not for full transparency on some other things, like Doge things, like USAID, and how people are starving from the cuts from from Doge because of USAID. I mean, he's not really being transparent there. He's just saying, well, of course not. He just says, hey, we cut USAID. People are starving, are dying. That's just the way we are. I guess I take that back. Maybe he is being transparent. But now everyone's speculating, well, how is he playing this? I mean, Trump's being mentioned, 1,600 times by one account on the emails that are out there now, the 23,000 emails. So the first year of Trump 2.0 just got more interesting. How are you dealing with it? I'll tell you how I'm dealing with it. I'm doing my show. I'm telling you, I'll help you. Maybe it'll help you. It's at the Marsh, San Francisco Marsh, Wednesday, the 19th, 7:30 p.m. Lots of good restaurants on Valencia Street. Go check them out. And, come to the show. Is about 60, 70 minutes. And it's sort of my belated birthday because my birthday was in October. And I said, wait till I do something in October or November. And, check it out. Check out the show. It's funny. I mean, some parts are, okay, I'm trying not to be didactic. Some parts are funny. And then I talk about, of course, my Filipino family, because it's a Filipino American and Asian American's response to Trump 2.0. So you might enjoy it. Get your tickets at themarsh.org. The Marsh in San Francisco, not to be confused with the one in the East Bay. Go to the one in San Francisco. I really did grow up not far from there. On Guerrero, on 17th, on 19th, on Church Street. We moved around. When you're a renter, you move around. Went to Everett, Dolores Park, my park. So I'm looking forward to going home. On Valencia Street there, it's like between 22nd and Liberty and 21st, right? Right there on Valencia. Emil Amok, 69. That's the name of the show. Oh, why is it 69? I'll explain. You got to show up, though. You got to be there. I'll explain. You say, oh, of course. That's why it's 69. And then maybe I'll have something to say about what Congress will pass tomorrow. The Epstein File Transparency Act. I guess that's EFTA. I think it's going to pass. And that's why Trump says, hey, go ahead and vote for it, because I'm Mr. Transparent. We'll see. We'll see. All right, I wanted to talk about Bea Alcaraz, the San Francisco supervisor who was then asked to resign after the reports came out about how she was not a very good business person, not a very good, not a very experienced, ethical business person, owning a pet shop, pet store in the Sunset. She lobbied hard for the job. She must have charmed Mayor Lurie because he said, "Okay, we got a vacancy. You're it. You're the one." And he used the idea that there has never been a Filipino on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. He used that as the reason why, hey, this is the reason why we got to have her. She's it. Is she the best one? Well, yeah, we like her. We like this one. Let her go in. And as it turned out, he didn't vet her, but the media did, or someone leaked stuff to reporters, and reporters went to town saying, hey, what's wrong with it? She didn't even go to college. She didn't graduate from college. She went to SI. Okay, that makes her a local, but is she qualified to be a supervisor? She goes from a failing pet shop owner, small business, to a cushy government job at $175,000 a year. It sounds to me like she pitched the job because she's ambitious, but so is Mayor Lurie. And I think if you're going to point fingers at anyone, forget Bea Alcaraz. Not her fault. She's young. I mean, you heard our show with San Francisco State Professor Emeritus Daniel Phil Gonzalez, who went to SI. He said, I don't know her. I asked my friends. No one knew her. And Dan and I have been covering Filipino empowerment specifically in San Francisco for decades. The only thing that qualifies you to be a semi-expert on this is, do you know who Dick Cervatos is? Do you know who Rod McLeod is? If you're friends with both, then you're qualified as an expert. It has not been easy for Filipinos to rise in politics in San Francisco. Oh, you can get to manager, you can get to a commission, but to get in a position where you raise money, have the votes, can run for citywide, forget citywide, just district-wide office. Very, very hard. And Cervatos and McLeod in the 80s were really the trailblazers who were going to make the way for the Filipino community. And what happens? A lot of Filipinos go from South of Market to Vallejo, Fremont, Union City, Daly City, the peninsula, outside of San Francisco. So it was very hard to get a candidate, especially in district elections, where it should be easy, right? Because that's the whole point of district elections. Is there a Filipino in the district who can manage the votes to win? And it's been very difficult. Very difficult for Filipinos to rise. And I asked Dan this in our conversation on our podcast last week, and he said, he hadn't been part of the Filipino American Democratic Club in San Francisco for about 15 years, but he got in touch with people. He talked. He said that they don't know why Mayor Lurie did not vet Bea Alcaraz as well as he could have or should have. And my column in the Inquirer.net, I speculate that, a couple weeks ago, Mayor Lurie talked to Donald Trump when Donald Trump said, look, I'm not going to send in the National Guard. And maybe Lurie picked up a few tips from the mayor, like his vetting practices or his appointment practices. Remember, Trump is infamous for appointing people like Pete Hegseth to what is now known as the Department of War. The unqualified Pete Hegseth. And I speculate in my column that maybe this is Lurie's way of using a Trump technique. You appoint a totally irrelevant unknown, and you have a loyalist for life. And if what you're building is a loyalty, I don't want to call it a regime, but an administration where loyalty matters, got one vote in the council because there's a person in there who doesn't belong, and she's beholden to you. And just to prove my point, when it was time to resign after all the news hit about Alcaraz's business practices and her experience, she didn't just go down and say, yeah, I'm resigning. She resigned at the mayor's request. And that says it all. I mean, if you're going to be an appointee worth your salt, you're not just running for the interim. You're showing yourself in the interim because you're running at some point in a full election for the seat. She wasn't willing to do that, or she couldn't convince Lori that she was the person for the job then. Unfortunate. It's unfortunate because what Lori did was set back the Filipino American community in San Francisco. Maybe a generation. I mean, we're not going to forget the Alcaraz story. We're not going to forget the Alcaraz, let's just call it the Alcaraz affair. Because it's a political blunder on the part of Lori, on the part of the Filipino American community in San Francisco. I'm only a San Francisco in exile. I just look at these things and say, what's going on? Where is the community's infrastructure, the political infrastructure? It wasn't very strong. It wasn't there. And it was almost like a random thing that Alcaraz was appointed. The story goes that she lobbied the mayor hard, said, hey, I should have the job. She was charming enough. She won him over. And then when the news was negative about her, she obliged and said, okay, you want me to resign? I'll resign. And at that point, if Alcaraz was really something, she would have just stood up and said, look, I may have had a lousy pet shop business, but darn it, I can do something. I'll show you. I'll show. I mean, that would have been a great thing. I would have loved that. Didn't happen. So we should think of this as, well, a lesson, but who makes up for it? Community? Does the community develop an infrastructure and then puts forth people who can be qualified? Or maybe Lori does something to make up for this blunder, because it was his blunder. It wasn't Alcaraz's blunder. And I'm not blaming Alcaraz. I'm not beating up on Alcaraz. I mean, in my column, I do point out that she is a pet shop business owner. And look, it's not bad if you're selling leashes and pet food and that kind of thing. But if you're trafficking in pets like cats and dogs during an overpopulation crisis where the public kennels are full of adoptable animals, you got to think about your business model. So that was my only real beef with Alcaraz. I was willing to let her have a chance and run and show what she can do. Because look, let's face it, district-wide office is, I mean, not citywide, but district-wide. These are grassroots things. These are, you're king or queen pothole. You're there to fix a traffic sign. You're there to open traffic, close traffic. You're there to work for the neighborhoods. You're total grassroots. She could have done it if you have the backing support. You don't even need the kind of money that you need for a citywide effort. So, kind of disappointed that Lori wasn't even willing to give her the shot. Prove yourself. No, get out. So we're not going to forget it. And Filipinos who live in San Francisco shouldn't forget this. He set back Filipinos at least a generation. I mean, I was around in the city when Rod McLeod and Dick Servatos were, you know, in play. They really were creating a pathway for Filipinos to go from the Board of Education to the Board of Supervisors. Didn't work. I mean, even McLeod had some problems. I mean, there were some ethical problems with Servatos too that he got entangled with. But, you know, when Filipinos talk about empowerment in the community, are they serious? I mean, we got to think about that too. And I bring this up because, I mean, a lot of my listeners, viewers are local San Francisco Bay Area, but this story was in the New York Times, and it was, I mean, this is another San Francisco black eye. It should have been a feel-good story about, oh, the Filipinos, we have the first ever supervisor. Oh, this is a big deal. It was, until it blew up in everyone's faces when they vetted Bea Alcaraz, and Mayor Lurie showed no guts. He bailed on her. That is really where you need to say, what's the deal, Mayor? What? You bailed on her? She was your pick? Were you only going for the historical nature, the news value of that? And then you had no courage to go forward. We don't know if Alcaraz would have, but she did what you would do if you know you're there beholden to the mayor. You accept his advice and you move on. I wish her the best. Not her fault. But Mayor Lurie, you owe the Filipino community something. You owe the Filipino community something in San Francisco. Otherwise, well, in citywide elections, the Filipino vote, even the Asian American vote, it is not a foregone conclusion that they are Lurielistas, what they are not beholden to Lurie. Oh, not after this. They're not beholden to Lurie. Not after this. Anyway, if you read my column on theinquirer.net, I put it in the context of, hey, my father was one of the first monarchs to San Francisco. And my father went through discrimination, went through exclusion, went through all the things that Filipinos in the 20s and 30s did. And yet, he didn't lose hope for the city. But like a lot of people, they gave up on the city and they moved elsewhere. I mean, a lot of people, they start off in the South of Market, they go to all throughout the city. And then they ultimately say, nah, I'm going to go to Daly City. I'm going to go to Alameda County. I'm going to go to Milpitas. If you could be so lucky as to go to Milpitas. I'm going to go to Vallejo. Actually, my parents, they stayed in San Francisco. My mom still lives in the city. Well, she passed away. My sister now lives in that house. But they're in the most Filipino area now, right? That part of the Mission. Not the Mission where I grew up. Like we're close to the Marsh on 22nd and Valencia. But the outer Mission, right? The outer. And that's, I hope we see a strong sense of Filipino pride in the outer Mission. Grassroots. And I hope that when there's a seat that comes up, we'll see some people rise. That's the hope. And I hope that the political infrastructure is there to make sure that those people develop and are ready and qualified when the need comes. I mean, this is an opportunity. The Alcaraz situation is one that it won't be like this. This is a rare situation. Anyway, Inquirer.net, that's where you find my column. I wrote it's the disempowerment of Filipinos in San Francisco. Bea Alcaraz will never be forgotten. Really, I'm not going to fit Bea Alcaraz. I kept saying Alcaraz, like mistaking her last name for the Alcaraz Theater. But I think, in a way, when you say, oh, who's the first Filipino supervisor, you'll say there's never been one. And in fact, the Bea Alcaraz affair is a situation that shows why there's never been a Filipino American on the Board of Supervisors in San Francisco. So check that out. That's the local story that is still, I know it happened last week. Some of the columnists had their columns over the weekend. My column posted on Sunday. I wanted to talk about it because it's important. We have a Filipino American, Asian American perspective, point of view. And I think it's important to know that this is not some small thing. It's a big thing. There's not as many Filipinos in San Francisco. The Filipinos you got mayors in Daly City, mayors in Milpitas. You got Filipinos in politics in the little cities, the contiguous to San Francisco County. But it was always an elusive thing. Continues to be. Filipinos in power. Filipinos are all over City Hall. When I was on Channel 4 reporting the news, Channel 4 when it was good, people would stop me. Filipinos working in the civil service jobs, mid-level managers, they'd stop me and say, "Oh, this was in the 80s and 90s," and Dan, Professor Dan, who I do the podcast with, has said, "Oh yeah, we have still a lot of people there, but they haven't made that leap. Let's hope that leap is made. Let's hope they get excited by what's going on with Bea Alcaraz and the aftermath, because the Bea Alcaraz situation, in terms of her situation in, being a now ex-supervisor, that part's over. But the next chapter is, what does Lori do for Filipinos? And what do Filipinos do in response to Alcaraz in terms of plotting to make a qualified candidate available for the board at some point in a district election or, a citywide office? It's time, right? So I'm looking at my chat. It says, I got a note from Melinda Lopez. She says, we bought our tickets for a show this Wednesday, 3 Filipino Americans for Berkeley. Look forward to hearing your one-man show. Well, thank you very much, Melinda. That pleases me to no end that people are going from the East Bay to San Francisco. Because I grew up in the city. I don't live in the city now. It's because really, I did live in Noe Valley for a brief period, and then I had to find parking one night, and I just kept driving till I found parking, and then I got to the East Bay, then I went to the extreme East Bay, then I went to the Altamont, then I went over the Altamont, then I found parking, and then I stayed. But I still love the city. There was no reason for me to be in the city except my nostalgic love for the city. But I am going home, excuse me, on Wednesday, and I'm going to do my show. And I'm glad that people in Berkeley, I lived in Berkeley for a while. For a little while, I lived in Berkeley, North Berkeley, you know, and I I really liked Berkeley a lot. I lived in Berkeley. I lived in Oakland. I lived in Contra Costa. I lived in the La Marinda area. And then everything was always interrupted when I had to go for a job back east. Then we lived back east, and we came back. And then we just stayed. We just stayed where we found parking. Parking is so important. Parking is so important. Anyway, the show that I'm doing on Wednesday, I talk about my. It really is a show about dealing with Trump 2.0, the first year, or the first year of Trump 2.0. My response, my life, from a Filipino American perspective. So Melinda, thank you, Melinda Lopez says she's bought 3 tickets. She's coming in, and thank you for coming in on BART. I believe in public transportation too. I believe in public transportation. But you'll like the Marsh. You'll like the Marsh in the San Francisco Marsh. It's intimate. Now, I saw a show. I won't say which, but it was a 1,400-seat theater, a one-man show, big-time actor, very famous actor. If I told you who it was, you'd know it. Big-time one-man show. And it was okay, but it was not intimate, in the sense that a one-man show should be, you're in the crowd. I'm not going to pick on you, if I see you, and like make you talk or anything like that. I mean, some people don't like to sit in the front row of comedian shows because they don't want, we're not going to talk. We don't want to be picked. No, but the intimacy of, I'm there. You'll see me, and I'll tell my stories. Storytelling show. Trump 2.0. Oh, and tomorrow's going to be a big day. So by Wednesday, we'll know. We'll know if that vote happens. And, I'll have a response on that. Anyway, it should be fun. Melinda, thanks for saying, yeah, you bought your tickets. You're coming in with a threesome, coming in hard with a threesome. Great. Bring your friends, tell your friends. Melinda's going to be there. I'm looking forward to meeting all of you. And like I said, 60, 70-minute show. Then afterwards, I don't drink anymore, so we'll air toast, the show. And then I'll tell you when the next show is going to be. There will be a next show somewhere. All right. So let's see, where am I going here? Oh, I'm going here. So let's see, what else is cooking? Yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm going to talk about, because do we like her now? Marjorie Taylor Greene? Donald Trump said he called her Marjorie Taylor Brown. I mean, like me? I don't think so. I don't. So that should tell you, the show is always in development. I'm always talking about stuff that's happening. So even though I did this show in Edmonton, Canada, a lot of Filipinos there. In Winnipeg, the most Filipinos in Winnipeg, Canada. And in Vancouver over the summer. I went to all 3 cities, to the fringe festivals there. And I also went to Fresno. I've done this show in 4 different fringe festivals. And each time the show is slightly different. I mean, consider in Canada, when I was in Canada, how, Fresno, when I first did the show in Fresno in February, Trump had that Oval Office blow up with Zelensky, and then I practically had to like redo the show right there. I mean, it's like, you're kidding me. Trump is like cascading Zelensky in the Oval Office. You just can't let that go unremarked. So we'll see what happens. The show is what it is. It's my response to life right now. And I promise you, you will leave. There's some ideas about how to make the world a better place. I mean, what do you want out of a one-man show? I mean, the world can be a better place? Yeah. The world can be a better place. All right. I was just going to come on a little bit. I was wanting to find something today. I needed a note from the show I did in Edmonton that would help the techs. And I was looking at the technicians who are going to be doing the Marsh show. I say technicians, it's one person. It's Alexa. And I want to let Alexa know, hey, couldn't find the note. But thank goodness for technology. I found the note. I scanned it. It's in my... So I was relieved. Now I don't have to worry about the software not opening. I have the note for the tech. We're going to have a good show on Wednesday. There's going to be a good show on Wednesday. And if Tuesday's good, if there's an interesting thing happening it'll make Wednesday even better. Wednesday will be even better. So don't forget, the Marsh, San Francisco, live, 7:30 p.m., Wednesday the 19th. And one night only. Thank you for being like Melinda, who says, hey, she just got on the chat, said, I'm coming there. Okay. Great. Bringing my 3 Filipino friends. Great. Look forward to seeing you all. All right, tomorrow I'm not going to go on because I'll just repeat this or whatever. Check out my column on theinquirer.net. And that's it. I end these things that we do here, where I'm standing in front of my gong and I've got these t-shirts and I got the wrong side. That's a Canada hockey jersey. I do these things because they're kind of like the radio shows I used to do when I was, on broadcast here, talk radio on NPR. But they're different from these live shows. They are different, but it's just a way to connect. We're all just looking to make a connection, right? So we end this with a little meditation. And so as I wish for me, I wish for you. Sharon Salzberg. I use her meditation. Why not? I love Sharon. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Ease. I mean, that's what we want, right? And we don't want the pain. We want to live with ease. Want to glide. Live with ease. More grease, please. More grease. But not... Oh, hey. We got disconnected there for a second. Emil Guillermo here. Till next time. Emil Amok here. See you on Wednesday the 19th at the Marsh.